Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about Illness as Metaphor by Susan Sontag. Now, before I go into the summary and analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so the channel can continue to grow. All right, Illness as Metaphor. Very interesting work here by Susan Sontag. A lot of things are happening within this work. So basically, she's talking about how diseases are often wrapped in metaphor and societal meanings, stigmas, and things like that. And she's arguing here that we should just accept diseases for what they are. They're diseases, all right? People get sick. People should focus on getting better. People should focus on their health and listen to their doctors and getting the right treatment and not focusing on stigmas, cultural meanings and definitions with these diseases. Think about AIDS. A lot of people, especially when AIDS was, out there, in the 1980s, people were getting sick, people were dying. Um, a lot of people saw it as God's judgment on people for their sexual practices. Because just for a little bit of history, in the 1960s, you have sexual liberation in America, and then this all started in the 1960s. In the 1980s, AIDS comes out, and people are getting sick, and how it's transmitted and everything, and people saw it was like God's judgment. So a lot of people interpret it as that. And Susan Sontag is saying like diseases shouldn't be viewed like that. We shouldn't wrap diseases in metaphors. She specifically talks about tuberculosis and cancer. She talks about like how people will say like I'm fighting cancer or I survived my battle with cancer. It does sound like you're going to war. It sounds like a military assignment. Like you are going into battle with cancer. And, if you do not win this battle, if you die from cancer, some people might interpret it as like, oh, you didn't win the battle. Maybe there's some type of moral or ethical thing that's wrong about you. So stigmas with diseases, depending on what type of disease you have, people see it as different things. If you have tuberculosis, she's saying here that it's some type of repression. Sometimes people, equal it or tie it together with sensitivity, or artistry, or there's different metaphors that are attached to these diseases. So tuberculosis, it's more like people will feel bad for you rather than, you did something morally wrong. But if you have AIDS, even in 2025 with modern medication and things like that, if you have AIDS, people will not see, people won't feel bad for you. They're like, well, um, they'll picture that you got in some type of, um, like it's your fault. You slept around or you did something to get it. It's not something it's not your biology, it's not your genetics. It's like you did something and you're paying the price for it. And it's like, oh, what did I do type of thing. So depending on the disease, there's different metaphors for it. I mean, cancer, people will feel bad for you if you get cancer because it's something that you didn't have a part in. Some people just wake up and somehow your biology and genetics and things like that, you just get cancer. But other diseases, especially sexually transmitted diseases, people don't, society, culture around the world don't have the same type of, sympathy, or they don't look at it the same way. It's like, hey, you're paying the price for your fun. That's how a lot of people see it. So depending on the disease, there's different metaphors, and Susan Sontag is saying here it shouldn't be like that. When people get sick, we should just see that they're sick and that they need the proper medical care, and we should focus on them getting better. We should focus on them getting the proper help. We should focus on them, surviving, not creating these metaphors around I'm fighting cancer, or this person has this. We should feel some sympathy for that person, or this person has this disease and it's a sexual disease, so it's your fault. You slept with somebody and you caught something, and it's your fault. It's God's judgment on you. So depending on what type of disease, there's some stigma attached to it. There's metaphors attached to it. And Susan Sontag is saying here we should let diseases be diseases and stop tying these metaphors with them. And these don't tie things to them, because diseases are diseases. People just catch them because, I mean, in terms of deeper meaning and analysis, we don't know why certain people get some diseases and some people don't. Sometimes it's just maybe you've taken all the precautions you can, but you still get a disease. And the craziest thing I've witnessed in this world is like people who are like super healthy. They're super healthy. They eat healthy. They exercise. They take care of their body. They visit their doctor, and those are the people that usually, a lot of times, those are the ones that get sick, and they have some horrible, uncurable disease. It's crazy sometimes. And then the people who don't take care of their health, who don't go to the doctors, who eat whatever they want, they'll eat at whatever time they want. They'll be the ones that are like living to like 90. I mean, some people, it's life is just crazy like that sometimes. But it's a very interesting work. It's focusing on the metaphors, the stigmas, the realities around diseases that people tie to diseases that sometimes don't really need to be there, because diseases are diseases and metaphors are metaphors. That's all I have to say about this work. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.